everyone, and welcome to the Rutherford County School Board work session. As always, our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, led tonight by one of our favorite attorney, or, well, she's tied for first, Angel McLeod. Thank you. We'll have a moment of silence, of course, on Thursday, tomorrow night. Need a motion to approve the agenda or comments or whatever.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Second?
Isn't that tomorrow night?
It's tomorrow night.
Excuse me, was I not clear? I wasn't clear. Does anybody want anything moved on the agenda?
Yes, I do.
Okay, if there's nothing there, then let's go to number 5. Is there anything on the consent agenda that anyone would like moved? Okay, number 6 would be visitors, and Ms. Michaels is visiting us tonight, so we can't count her, but she may have somebody tomorrow night. Ms. Michaels has been in Washington. She explains the mess, I guess, in Washington. Number 7.
Number 7 will be our recognition tomorrow night and kind of our spotlight, the Distracted Driving Awareness Month. And they're doing this with our high school students, our SROs, the Sheriff's Department. You've got some people coming to do that tomorrow night. And I think we're all very aware of distracted driving. So I thought it was a really good idea. And since we're on TV, it'd be a good time to share it, some of the things that we're doing. So that shouldn't take long, but I think it's worthwhile.
Talked to the sheriff Sunday in church, and he said he will be here.
Okay.
So that's great. Number 8.
Number 8, we have some facilities for Smyrna Elementary is seeking to build a school marquee sign. So Principal Amy Patton has submitted a request to purchase and install a new LED school sign at her school. The total cost of the project is valued at about $18,000. This includes the sign from Signs Plus and labor and materials for the masonry part of the from AMP Incorporated. The Rutherford County Schools Maintenance Department will install the concrete footings and run the connect electrical wiring to the sign. This project will be funded through the PTO and the Student Council. So the motion is to approve purchase and construction of an LED sign at Smyrna Elementary School as presented. And I've asked Mr. Clardy, so he's been over that and the designs, if you'd like to know more. He's got that information.
Questions before we vote tomorrow night? Part B.
This is a good one. This is a deductive change order for John Coleman Elementary School. The John Coleman Elementary School construction contract is now fulfilled. The approved bid price for Margie Anderson Construction was $17,246,700. The final cost is $17,185,481.18. So RG Anderson has submitted a deductive change order in the amount of $61,218.82 for approval that will close this project out. And so the motion will be to approve this one and final deductive change order in the amount of $61,218.82 for R.G. Anderson on John Coleman Elementary School as presented. Came in cheaper than budget again. Another good sign.
Questions?
This is shared money. We talked about that a little bit already, shared. So, Jeff usually comes back with an amendment or something, so we'll probably need to put it in another elementary project because the amount been shared with city already. So probably when Rocky Fork Elementary or whatever would kind of be my suggestion, I think.
Okay, number 9.
9 is an immigrant grant-funded contract. The English as a Second Language Department has awarded an immigrant grant based upon a proposal submitted by Nona Hall. The grand total was $21,746.88. It requested funding for 4 extended contracts for a 6-week summer school program to be held at Smyrna Middle School. Ms. Abel Mashi and Ms. Virgil, Ms. Guadron, and Ms. Adwala have agreed to supervise the summer school program. Transportation is being provided by Chip Industries, and that's one of our bus drivers. Each teacher will receive $2,325 for their services, and each educational assistant will receive $1,800. Chip Industries will receive $2,378 to provide transportation from June 5th through July the 14th. I think this probably should say the ESL department has been awarded an Emma grant. I think probably one word might be missing there, that she applied for and has received this. So the recommended motion then will be to fund that with the people for that 6-week summer program, as was presented earlier.
Questions from the board?
Just curious, how many students is that program intended to serve that during that summer session?
Let us get that for you. Do you happen to know right off the top of your head?
We've done that for the past few years, but I can.
You're on a different grant. This is the ESL.
Oh, I'm sorry.
How many, it's Smyrna,
It's at Smyrna Middle School, and it typically serves between 100 and 200 students. Last year, I want to say it was around 150 students. It depends on how many sign up and how many come in.
Well, and I guess that's kind of one of the things I was getting to, was will it cover everyone that wants to take advantage of that
Everyone that
program?
wants to take advantage of the program has a seat there.
And it's English second language studies only?
Yes, ma'am.
I would say with transportation provided, you're going to see.
They do provide transportation for those students as well that want to, so that we can get more of the students that we would wish for them to be there.
Thank you.
Sorry about the confusion on the.
No, that's part of it.
Any other questions? Number 10.
Number 10 is a partnership grant with the Metro Nashville Public Schools. Rutherford County teachers will participate in an 8-day integrated math summer workshop through a Metro school grant obtained by the Metro Nashville Public Schools. The program will involve Rutherford County High School mathematics teachers. With grant monies, the teachers were paid a stipend and a mileage. The recommend approval of the motion to approve the agreement to pay the stipend and mileage to participating teachers. They applied for the grant numbers. We've done other steps of this already, but remember we're going from integrated 1, integrated 2, integrated 3. So this is the process of going through that training, and I was very glad they included us in that grant.
Questions from anyone? Well, number 11, you have some maps there at
Yeah.
your desk. And, Mr. Director, you want to explain just a minute? It's in tab 4, too, if you don't have the maps.
Right, and Mr. Snell's with us tonight, but transportation, and Mr. Morgan brought to my attention that we have the subdivision, Buchanan Estates, is being expanded. And so they're adding additional roads. So the rezoning tonight, is my understanding, does not include any people living there yet. So we're being proactive, which means you probably don't have to have a public hearing and that sort of thing, since it's been open ground, but the design is in your drawing. So map 1, the way the subdivision is, some of the students in this would have gone to Christiana Elementary, some would have gone to Buchanan, right down through the middle of the subdivision. So what we're proposing to do would be the second map and just move that to the Buchanan Elementary School, which will be consistent with the area where they already going to Buchanan Elementary School.
How would this impact middle schools? I know, when we did the rezoning in that area a while back, there was a lot of concern from some of that neighborhood because you had children going to still zone for Buchanan Elementary, but then their middle school students being rezoned for Christian.
You know on that, Mr. Snell, off the top of your head?
It's the same, there's not any change.
Okay.
Because, again, we take 2 elementaries to feed them middle, so I think these students then are already going to, Buchanan probably.
Yes.
You have a comment about the rezoning?
There's a spot on the map here that is the end of Dayton Court that is slated in this proposal to stay with Christiana Elementary School. For all areas to the east of Rucker Road to go to Buchanan seems to make good sense. Is there any discussion that can be offered? I imagine somebody's going to say, well, we had a couple of students there and we didn't want to rezone them, so we left it alone.
Do you know, Mr. Snell, do you have a set of the maps in front of you? Let me give you,
With regards to leaving or moving the line so that anybody who moved in would then go to Buchanan Elementary like the rest of the subdivision. So we didn't look at making any other changes because that wasn't an issue.
Do we know how many students are in this block right here? That's what you're talking about, correct?
It is, and I think the board would appreciate knowing the student population of that area that is to the east of Rucker Road, and just brainstorming, even if we were to grandfather everyone who is there, as far as we wanted to grandfather them, it makes a clean line that everything, east of Rucker Road goes to Buchanan. I'm not saying it's the right decision, but I'd like to hear a little conversation tomorrow night on that.
okay, we'll get Shane to see if he can give us a number.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Michaels, if you'll make a note in that area. One of the situations that frightens me for next year is the Christiana Elementary and the Buchanan Elementary. And when I bring you that sheet that shows the growth, both of them are well over that 4% number, and both of them are full. And actually, Mr. Zago has assigned additional portables to try to deal with that. Mr. Clardy, is it looking at Christiana, where could we add on there if we need to? So we're in the process of evaluating that whole thing. It may literally be, while it would look clean, we can't handle it right at the moment. That literally may be where we are, but I'll find out.
I'm noticing that up at the intersection of Brickyard Court and Decatur Lane, you've got people that live, and I guess everywhere there's eventually somebody who lives next door to one another. One goes to one school, the other goes to another school, but Rucker Road seems like a better dividing point.
We'll get Shane to look at it and see, we're talking about what grades they are. Middle probably won't be a problem, they still probably go together, middle would be the elementary.
I remember several years ago, the county commission going with the board to Buchanan Elementary to do some updates, to expand the cafeteria, and I believe we added some classrooms too, to try to get rid of some portables, and now we're having to bring them back in, which is ironic.
The issues there at Christiana, just to kind of mention it, is probably got to run the sewer down there, which is a pretty good cost, coming from down West Buchanan Middle, not necessarily that far down the road, but there'll be several dollars to pull the sewer down there. Probably to add there, you're going to be getting into what was the old Buchanan ball fields. Once upon a time, that would have really been an issue, but now with the Whitworth there, I don't think it's probably as big as it used to be with softball teams. But the community piece for that is an issue because there's just not lots of property to add at Christiana Elementary. And the commission's asking us to try to add where we can. We also discussed that cafeteria. And Mr. Clardy said we moved out the front before to expand some of the kitchen cafeteria. It's gonna, Joseph Binkley, whomever will earn their pay, trying to find a way to add on to this school and accommodate more total enrollment. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that our sewer system out there is the only one in the entire school system now that's left that is not in really good shape, and we just filed paperwork with the state last week to give us a couple more years of using that. We have one that we had designed a couple years ago, and it state went from letting us use that and have it under the ball fields to having it there but not being able to use the ball fields. So now the really to have room to put a nice addition out there, we'd have to run the sewer down from Bessie Maples subdivision there, and get sewer. We'd have to cross 41, so that's going to be a little bit of a hassle. But there's also a possibility that we could put a new cafeteria on the wing that we add back there if there's enough room. It's going to be a real, tough deal to get designed, but it can be done.
Anything else? Number 12.
Number 12 is the renewal of the bus contract, which some of you worked on that committee. The bus committee and bus contractors have reached an agreement on the terms of the renewal of the contracts with the bus contractors. The changes for the proposed contract from the current contract are highlighted. Any increase in compensation will be considered separately from this contract through the budget process, and any new rates will be added to this prior to contract execution. So the motion is to approve the bus contract for 2017-18, 2020-21 school years. I believe you've already looked at that too in an earlier time it was shared.
In case I forget it tomorrow night, I'll do it tonight. I want to certainly thank Ms. McLeod and Mr. Reed and Mr. Snell for their hard work and leading me through this process since I knew very little about it, but I've learned from them, and I appreciate their leadership. If there are no questions, we'll go on to 13.
And 13, just to tell you at the start, you remember we've gone through this. Will this be the third year in a row where the state's moving around line numbers for technology? So that's what.
They started it with last year's budget, and then once our budget was approved and we started to enter it in the system, they changed the interpretation on us, and we had to do major amendment in the current year.
What we're trying to do is get your approval for the budget line item numbers so that when we present it to the commission, we don't have to come back with them with another amendment on the budget. What the state is now saying the categories could be. So here's what it is. The state introduced a new major function and a new object codes for technology expenditures for 2016-17. They have given us new guidance on the use of these accounts after reviewing district budgets across the state. Instructional software, materials, and equipment are to be recorded under instruction. Networks and system-wide expenditures are to be recorded in technology function 72-250. The amendment reclassifies already budgeted technology funds. The $100,000 in 72-810 is for safety and the telephone system-related expenditures. So the motion is to amend $2,580,461 in already budgeted funds to the applicable line items as presented. Just technical cleanup with line item numbers in the budget is what this is.
Questions from anyone? 14.
And this is for information only. With Tennessee School Board Association does recommend that we review the policies annually, and you're ready now to review Section 6. This is the student section, which is a long section in this month, and refer any potential revisions to Angel McLeod to address in our next policy meeting.
Okay. Insurance update. Ms. Barnes, Mr. Sandvig.
You want to discuss the handout you handed them or not? You might want to do that because you did have a handout.
The legal size handout with the 3 graphs on it just show, and I started looking at September rather than July or January on the insurance fund, whole county program. the revenues coming in and the expenditures. You can see, if you help have a ruler or whatever, but looking at the end of March numbers, those two lines are closer together than they have been in the previous 2 years. So as we talked earlier, I think back in January, where we've seen some adverse claim history, but it's looking better. But we're not where we were previous year and the previous year before that. Any questions on that?
And because we deduct for 10 months from Board of Education employees, the chart drops off after the end of May, which is not a full 12 months, but it's the 10 covered in the, Mr. Sandvik has mentioned before that there, at some point in time, may be an advantage to bring it out over the 12 months. Employees that wouldn't have as much deductions at one time, but there may be potential there sometime.
And I would like to say something about the principal's request sheets that y'all got. Just kind of a reminder, we use these here to help us allocate our budgeted funds. What are the priorities? Mr. Clardy may have some different thoughts on what is needed because of the integrity of the building or major repairs needed to systems that don't agree necessarily with the principals. But he uses these, the technology department looks at them, the instructional department looks at them. That's kind of how we use these. And what I spent this morning doing, I've debated it before, I did separate out a separate safety and communication issue. We have right now a lot of them are driven by the fire marshal, but we have a strong request, and we have things we have no discretion on, safety cameras, DVRs, upgrades, changes to the alarm and intercom systems. So I put those in a separate file, and then I tried to keep in mind, and I was looking at it from source of funds. So a principal may say something to you, well, my major repair didn't get here. Well, it was a major enough item, I moved it to the capital projects page. I tried to look at what source of funds we would have to cover. So that's I moved some things around this year, because occasionally where a principal will put something on which set of sheets really won't tie it all to the funding source. So just as you're looking those over, but Mr. Clardy, Mr. Zago, Mr. Solomon, I'll use these to help set priorities and move forward.
Questions from Mr. Sandvik? Director's update.
If you did not happen to hear Tyra Pilgrim on Rutherford Issues with Brian Barrett yesterday, she did an outstanding job. I think Mr. Estes may be responsible for recommending that she go or passing the word on, but she really explained CTE. She explained the options and the offerings, and you could tell the host, Mr. Barrett, was engaged in understanding it and learning. I actually think he's asked her to come back again. But it's their own podcast, so if you get a chance, go into WGNS and look for the one on the 18th. It would be Rutherford Issues on the 18th. And just kind of listen to that. I think you'll be really proud of what she covered. We have the attendance. Been good this week. It's really always interesting. 97, a little over 97% today. It's amazing to me how attendance gets better during picture-taking days and test days. Now that you have to make up these tests, they really come. So we deal with the illnesses some way differently on those special times. So that was very good. Ms. Wise did inform me today that she is going to retire from Title I, so we're going to have to take a look at that. She's done much of our federal programs for a number of years, came the other night. Didn't really see this coming, but she's earned it, you know. I think she's thinking that Rick's retired, they want to do some things, you know, now. So just kind of FYI to you.
Did we have a vote and prevent her from doing that? Is that possible?
I even said
have any-
today, could I talk you out of it or anything to do? But
It didn't work, huh?
She had her mind made up. Her mother was my secretary. When I first started principal, she was my first secretary, Ms. Davenport. And so, I mean, I've known the family and them for a long time, but very, I can tell when they get to the point they've made up their mind. I know that from a number of years ago. So she's done us an outstanding job balancing the millions of dollars that deal with title and that sort of thing. One of the things that she mentioned to me, because she got to go through the No Child Left Behind and then the waivers to all of that, she kind of started at the groundwork and worked to understand the intricacies of it, because you have to build budgets and reporting categories and all the things dealing with that. She said, you know, now with ESSA and it's starting in place, this may be the best time too that somebody new comes in and really does like I did and starts in at the ground of this and lets it evolve and develop and kind of understands it at the same, rather than having to come in after much of it is started. So, and she'd even had the logical arguments for me at that point. So, you know how that goes.
Anything for the director? Ms. Moore?
Tennessee legislature.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. I thought you said anything for the director. Okay. Yeah, well, first of all, the voucher bill that was due to be heard in the Finance Committee this morning was pushed until next week. So, again, it's one of those, kind of not really sure if it was pushed because they think they don't have enough votes or if it's for some other reason. So it is back on the agenda for their committee next Wednesday morning. So I do plan to try to be there. There is a bill, Mr. Odom was kind enough to share this information with me that I just thought was of interest, and I know here especially it seems like over the last few weeks with us talking about budgets and building, and I run into people, whether they're constituents or just people in the community, asking questions about the budget and expressing concerns about, you know, the growth and everything. Kind of keeps taking me back to, and we talked about this, all the, you know, sometimes what we wind up with is unfunded mandates that I think a lot of times our constituents, our people out there in the community, a lot of people don't realize some of the things that the school systems have to fund that are actually state mandated. And one of the bills that's kind of moving along right now that's pretty interesting is, and it's a good bill. I mean, I think the intent and purpose of it is great. It's Senate Bill 401, House Bill 457, that would increase the required portion of the BEP funding to be allocated to teachers for their supplies from the current $200 a year to $400, which, and I think we all know that our teachers, the majority, if not all of them, spend money out of their own pockets to help fund their classrooms because there's not enough to go around. But unfortunately, even though this bill is well intended, right now the estimated, they've got fiscal impact, is that the state, when you're looking at roughly what's about $13 million that it would cost, that the state's portion of that would be $100,000, and the increase in local expenditures would be $12,887,000, which strikes me as just a wee bit unbalanced. So again, just kind of an alert for everybody as to how these unfunded mandates impact us in our budget, and especially if this is something that comes in at the last minute, right, Mr. Odom, that's got to be added to our budget that we're not anticipating or planning for right now. So how much, again, as far as Rutherford County?
We have close to 3,000 teachers, so you'd be looking at trying to move around $600,000 or coming up with 600 somewhere else. And of course, what's so interesting, their bulleted explanation is go somewhere else in your BEP budget and move the monies over to that. Well, that leaves a hole somewhere else. So it just, we're not playing chess here, moving from one spot to another. But that's really noticeable, isn't it? This is their document. This is not ours. This is their physical note document that's attached to their bill.
So over $500,000 for Rutherford County that we'd look at.
And the
funding.
second one in here, there's another one, 3 pages down, if you might want to tell them about that one, which is anticipation for the seatbelt thing if it takes place, which is there too.
$70.5 million.
That starting, actually, I think they've amended it now to 18, 19, but local expenditures for the districts is $70,566,400.
And it looks like they stretched that out from 17, 18 through 22 to 23, correct? A lot of money.
And their contribution is much less. And you can see that more when you read the little bullets here.
Any questions or comments from Ms. Moore? Mr. Holliday?
No report tonight.
General discussion by board members, just one thing from me, and you have the revised schedule in front of you, and just want to make sure that it'll work with everyone. We discussed this the other night, and I wanted to wait until Ms. Michaels got back to make sure that we were okay, and so that's what we did, and she assures me that this will work. Monday, May 1, when we had a meeting that night, originally scheduled policy meeting, which Ms. McLeod canceled. So we're going to have the work session on that night. Mr. Sandvig requested that the third would be a lot easier. The second was out. We couldn't do anything the second. The third, Mr. Sandvig requested they would be easier, the material that was coming into him from the state on the first, if he had a couple of days to blend it into his presentation. So special call budget on the third, and then the fourth will be the board meeting, regular board meeting. So is there any particular problem? I think you told me the other night there really wasn't, but didn't think. Okay, Ms. Michaels will make that our regular schedule. Also, reminder on the retirement reception, which is May 9th, 3:30 to 5:30 in Embassy Suites. How many we have retired? 100? We don't know how many will be there.
100 that have turned it in, but will participate about 70 probably. Really? Well, there's a lot of them not going to come. Okay, I understand that.
Actually signed forward today. Just
Any other general discussion by board members? Any topic? Okay, I guess we are in good shape here. We'll see you tomorrow night, 5 o'clock. We are adjourned. Thank you so much.